information from resistant subjects during interrogation. MKUltra also sought to find substances to cause paralysis, simulate the effects of alcohol, to increase paranoia, or even to cause brain damage. And that is just kind of the tip of it.
Now, the early efforts of MKUltra involved the testing of LSD. Now, LSD was first synthesized in 1938, and the effect and power of LSD were still largely unknown by the 1950s. So, of course, CIA operatives wanted to know if foreign intelligence agents could be made to defect against their will, and if the same could be applied to United States operatives, basically to brainwash the agents into doing their bidding.
Now, the CIA needed test subjects. A lot of them. However, finding thousands of willing test subjects for such a massive program while maintaining secrecy would be difficult. CIA officials determined the best way to conduct experimentation without bringing public suspicion or tipping off the enemy was to not tell anybody. Not even the test subjects themselves.
It's pretty messed up.
Right?
But it just gets way worse. So, where did the CIA go to find their test subjects? Well, they went to nursing homes, prisons, and even mental hospitals.
Oh,
Yeah. These were the most popular sources where the CIA would give LSD to the unknowing test subjects. But they weren't the only ones. The CIA would also administer LSD to doctors, military personnel, other CIA agents, and even members of the general public, all without their knowledge. Now, one of the most famous examples was a patient who was given LSD for 174 days straight. Now, patient isn't the right word because they didn't know. Victim is the correct word. So imagine that, 174 days straight without you knowing.
Yeah.
He had to have thought, or he or she or whomever had to have thought they were going crazy.
right?
Mm-hmm. Another example was the CIA going into brothels in San Francisco, finding individuals who were going to purchase a sex worker and unknowingly drug them with LSD and observe how they reacted. The reason the CIA chose the brothel is that they assumed the people purchasing the sex workers wouldn't tell anyone about their odd feeling of what occurred to them at the brothel because they would be embarrassed to admit that they had went to a brothel in the first place. There were also allegations that the CIA agents would hire and then drug prostitutes knowing they would not go to the police or press charges.
Yep.
Wow.
We talk about that just a little bit more later on.
Yeah, we do. So what else did they do, Dan?
Now, there were some individuals who were aware of their participation in the experiments, but they were usually poor, drug addicted, and taken advantage of. Often heroin addicts, were exploited, bribed with offers of more heroin to participate. These few subjects who did volunteer were usually singled out for more of the extreme experiments. For example, 7 volunteers were given LSD for 77 consecutive days. Not as bad as the 174, but these guys knew they were on it.
Yeah, they knew that they were getting it for 77 days.
So they were doing LSD for 77 days and heroin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's pretty intense, huh?
That.
Anyways, so LSD was not the only drug used during this Project MKUltra. Many drugs were experimented with in various tests, including but not limited to heroin, morphine, MDMA, alcohol, and marijuana, to just name a few. They also experimented with drug combinations. In one instance, they injected a patient in one arm with barbiturates, and then in the other arm, they injected amphetamines.
Damn, you got downers and uppers.
They wanted to
Right.
see how well they could adjust. This is almost like Unit 731, kind of.
Yeah.
Did you hear about the Finnish soldier that got separated from his group in World War II and he was the medic and carried all the amphetamines. And for 4 weeks, he killed over like 4,000 Soviets by himself while being coked out on meth.
No, I have not heard about that.
You could see like he's like this in his picture, and you're like, the Red Army was scared of him. They're like, dude, this guy's coming out of nowhere. Like he took on 1,000 troops at once, and they retreated from this guy because he got shot like 6 times and still kept coming.
Dude, he went full Rambo on them.
That's intense.
Now, hypnosis was a large part of the program as well. The CIA recruited Scottish psychiatrist Donald Cameron, who had been experimenting in reprogramming the human psyche by erasing memories. Now get this, some of these experiments were so inhumane and secretive enough to warrant the CIA moving Donald Cameron's operation to Canada, away from the U.S. jurisdiction and the media's eyes.
So what were his experiments exactly? Well, some of his methods involved putting patients into a drug-induced coma for several weeks while playing loops of repetitive noises or sounds. He would use electroshock therapy at 30 to 40 times normal power. He would use sensory deprivation, locking patients in a room with no stimulus for weeks at a time.
Those aren't experiments. That's torture.
That's just pure torture.
So, because these experiments were so harsh, there was significant collateral damage from them. His patients would start to develop amnesia, and in the most extreme cases, forget who their parents were or even how to talk. Now, even though these experiments were super bad, Donald Cameron insisted he had honorable intentions of researching methods to correct schizophrenia through the reprogramming of the human psyche.
Cameron was also paid handsomely and allowed to conduct his operations with virtually no oversight.
To top all of that off, we will never know the full extent of Cameron's experiments, what he observed or concluded from his experiments, because in 1967, he died while hiking. Also, for reasons unknown, Cameron's family is said to have destroyed his records.
How convenient. You think he got suicided?
Shoot, I don't think he got suicided. I guarantee you that he's probably on some island.
Yeah, or his patients broke loose and went and tracked him down in the forest. He's part of the 411.
Ooh.
The government sprayed him with, like, instead of mosquito repellent, bear piss, and they just attracted all the bears. Hey, side note, I watched a TikTok and it says black bears eat their prey ass first.
Nice. All right. So, like we mentioned earlier with Cameron, one of the many experiments conducted during MK Ultra was sensory deprivation. Test subjects were paid to lay with padded hands, muffled ears, and blindfolded eyes in a small white-lit room 24 hours a day in an effort to understand the psychological effects of full sensory deprivation. Many subjects refused to continue the experiments after a few days.
There was brainwashing used on children during experiments. However, different tactics were used. Many of the children were subjected to physical and sexual abuse. A majority of them were unknowingly given mind-altering drugs during and after the abuse.
So I know that is pretty rough, and you're probably wondering if this is still going on today. Well, like we said earlier, that little bit of official documents that weren't destroyed by the CIA state that the Project MK Ultra was terminated in 1973. And a follow-up report from the U.S. General Accounting Office in 1984 revealed that testing had stopped, but that between 1940 and 1974, the CIA exposed thousands of human test subjects to hazardous substances and experiments.
But is it truly over? Did the CIA really stop, or did they just rename this project and continue on? Well, that takes us to strange facts and findings. So Hans, do you want to start us off with the first strange fact and finding?
All right, so our first strange fact and finding revolves around a CIA veteran. In 1977, a 14-year CIA veteran named Victor Marchetti did an interview. In this interview, Victor stated that the CIA's project, MKUltra, was never abandoned, that the CIA had stated that as a cover story, and that the experiments continued. He also stated